Hello, and thank you for joining me. It's Kirsten, and it's the start of another weekly vlog. So for those of you that were watching last week's vlogs, you would know that I'm in the middle of Persuasion by Jane Austen, and this is part of the Jane Austen July TBR. This is the last book on that TBR, and honestly I've really been enjoying it. It's been a really fun time. I love Jane Austen's writing. She just has this way of writing that I've said many times throughout this month, of taking very mundane things and putting such an interesting spin on it for me. I also think Persuasion especially is making me remember how brutal Jane Austen can be. Like, the way that they talk to each other is just so brutal at times. It's wow. But Jane Austen does have really great sarcasm and wit, and it's a good time. But there is one particular bit in Persuasion. So we're following Anne, who's our main character. She was persuaded not to marry this man when she was younger, and he has now turned into everything he said he was going to be. He's a very well established person, and Anne still really cares about him, still has memories from when they first met, and kind of regrets being persuaded not to marry him. Now something's happened where they're having to rent out their home, and he is coming back and she's getting all caught up in it. But there is one part where they're talking about a different family and about the son, and they're basically saying it's a good thing that the son died, because the way they talk about the son is just so cruel. It's unreal. Look. The real circumstances of this pathetic piece of family history were that the Musgroves had had the ill fortune of a very troublesome, hopeless son, and the good fortune to lose him before he reached his 20th year. Okay then. That he had been sent to sea because he was stupid and unmanageable on shore, that he had been very little cared for at any time by his family, though quite as much as he deserved, seldom heard of, and scarcely at all regretted, within the intelligence of his death abroad, had worked its way to Uppercross 2 years before. He had, in fact, though his sisters were now doing all they could for him by calling him Poor Richard, been nothing better than a thick-headed, unfeeling, unprofitable Dick Musgrove, who had never done anything to entitle himself to more than the abbreviation of his name, living or dead. This is what I mean by how brutal Jane Austen can be. Like, wow. It's so rude, and yet it's so well delivered. I think it's brilliant. The way that they do insult each other throughout these books is unreal, and it happens throughout all of the books. I feel like in Mansfield Park it wasn't quite as strong. You did have some of it put towards Fanny, the main character in Mansfield Park, but she was very different. She was very timid, and she just kind of accepted it and understood that that was her lot in life and kind of agreed with what they were saying. Whereas in some of the other books like Pride and Prejudice, Persuasion, things like that, you do get a lot more of it, and I feel like it's a lot more noticeable because it's just so harsh. So yeah, I do enjoy this book. I do enjoy the writing style and everything, and I just think those moments there just make me go, ooh, that's a burn and a half for someone that's already dead and died so young, and I'm just like, wow. But it is a good read. I haven't read too much of it, to be honest. I'm up to page 59, but it's not a very long book, and I'm pretty confident that I'm going to get this finished. So that's what I'm currently physically reading, and then audiobook wise I'm listening to The Guest List by Lucy Fowley. Now this is a book that was going around Instagram quite a lot saying it was a good murder mystery, but I had seen some really mixed reviews on it. So far I've listened to the first 2.5 hours, and I can say that I'm really not impressed by it. We're at this wedding, so this wedding's going to be taking place. There are 2 different timelines that are going on, and it is a full cast of characters. I quite like that in the audiobook, but it's just, I don't know, there's not much to it. We're meeting, I mean, fair enough, we're at the beginning, so we're just meeting all our characters, getting a bit of background history. There are a lot of secrets and stuff between everybody, so that's kind of interesting because you want to know what's going on and what those secrets are. But that's about it. Like, it's not anything that's really gripping my attention, and I could easily just like not continue with it. But I am going to. I'm going to give this one a try, and hopefully it's going to pick up when the mystery starts really get going. But so far I'm just a bit meh about it. It's not got anything that's really captured my attention compared to other murder mysteries that I've read. So we'll see how this one goes. But that's it. So this week is a very busy working week actually. It's quite exhausting, but we're going to see how it goes and just stay positive. But for now I do need to get going. I need to open up the shop. We've got a busy day, and yeah, fingers crossed I'll get Persuasion finished, and I'll also finish listening to the guest list, and hopefully my opinion of that book changes. And then I've got one book left to read, and then that's it. I can't believe July is almost over. It's gone crazy fast. Enough of the ramble. We do need to get to work, so let's go and we will catch up soon. Good afternoon. We are seeing a slightly more awake me. I am still pretty exhausted, honestly. It's been a really hard few days. In September I've got a couple weeks off and we're just gonna wait till then. We can hold out till then. I have finished Persuasion and I was kind of surprised, but this only came out as 3 stars. Don't get me wrong, it's a good book and I do feel like 3 stars, they're not bad. It's just, I don't know, people have this weird misconception that 3 stars is bad, but it's just like, well, 2.5 is average, so 3 stars is good. Anyway, this was 3 stars. And I did like it. I love Jane Austen's writing, as I've been mentioning throughout this month of doing the Jane Austen July readathon. It really has been lovely. But I can also say that this one was the slowest moving in terms of plot for me, and also the characters and stuff, they didn't feel as well developed as compared to some of her other books. And I think it didn't help that I read this after reading Lady Susan, which is my new favourite Jane Austen book. So I do feel like this kind of got put aside. I think it does discuss the topic of persuasion very well, how it affects people, how it affects your life choices and things like that, listening to the ideas and opinions of others. So I really enjoyed that concept. It was just very slow moving, and even though it's one of her shorter books, this actually took me longer than some of her other books to read. It was just not much happened. And again, like I say, I don't know whether that's just because I've read it compared to Lady Susan's, or whether it's just I'm kind of having a classics burnout at this point, which I don't think so, because I still very much enjoyed the writing. It was just, yeah, for me it was good. I liked the characters, but not as gripping as her other books. And that's it. I haven't really been reading much, although I have only got about 3 hours left of the guest list. I've been listening to that, as you know, as I think I've already mentioned, and it is good. Again, it's one of those books where I'm actually thinking it's probably going to be on the cusp between 2 or 3 stars. Like, it's not dreadful, but I can also say it's not gripping. Like, it's meant to be a thriller and it's not thrilling. And that's a bit of a shame. If you ignore that it's meant to be a thriller, I mean, we're having an interesting look at a bunch of people's lives coming together at a wedding, and they've all got secrets and stuff that they're all trying to hide, which, you know what, fair enough. But it's not thrilling at all, and I'm really like, well, where is this book going? I just don't know, and I've only got 3 hours left, and yeah, it's not my favourite thriller. I'm glad I've listened to it and not picked it up physically. It's one of those things. I mean, I do like listening to books, so it always does help me having an audiobook, because I enjoy that a lot, especially when I'm like busy and stuff. It just gives me something to put on in the background, and it does work really well for that. But I think if I was physically reading this, I would be so bored. So yeah, I don't know what star rating it's going to come out. I do plan on finishing it by the end of the week, so I'll let you know. I don't know, it's just got nothing to it. Like, sorry, it is really cloudy and this lighting is going all over the place. It's just, I don't know, there's not much to it, and there's so many different character perspectives that some of them I'm like is interesting, some of them really aren't interesting. I am liking like this whole school boy thing that's going on, and their weird like talks about the past and what they got up to, and like this survival thing that they went through. Like it that is partially interesting to me to see what's going on with that, but otherwise there's not much else that I'm just like, oh, this is interesting. I think because we just don't spend enough time with each of these characters. Like, it's constantly changing, and there's so many things going on that I'm just like, where is this going? Is it meant to have like this creepy aesthetic because we're on this island that's said to be haunted? You'll have little bits of that and then it moves on to something else, and I just think it's been pulled in too many directions, and because of that it's lost the thriller aspect. But it's an okay one to listen to, if that makes any sense. But yeah, so that's it really. I really haven't read much at all. I really thought, because I had Persuasion and Turn of the Screw, both of them combined was like under 400 pages. So I'm just like, oh, that's going to be really easy and I'll just chuck in any book that I feel like reading, and it just hasn't happened because we're on Friday and I've read one book. and just having a really chilled week. I mean, to be fair, I did plan on having a more chilled week because I know how tired I've been. It's been so much at work and just home life and everything. So it's been really nice to have today, where I was originally going to be like filming and getting loads of stuff done, and then I've gone, no. Actually, my partner went, no. And he was just like, you need some time just to relax. He was like, you're doing too much, you're burning yourself out, just take a break. And well, that's what I'm doing today. So I mean, I'm still editing, but I like editing, and I'm just gonna lay on my bed and edit, so that's easy enough. But anyway, this has been a really rambly update. I'm really sorry there's not like loads to talk about. It's just more me going, I'm exhausted and taking my time because of that. And I think it's important for everyone to remember that, you know, as much as you have all your different habits and commitments and things like that, like, do make sure you take time for you. And if you're worn out and tired and just stressed out and stuff, it's perfectly fine to take a day where you just don't do anything and you just chill out, and you shouldn't feel bad for that. That's my motto of probably the next few weeks, because it's gonna be hectic. There we go. My sort of motivational speech, which probably wasn't motivational at all, but whatever. Anyway, we're gonna go. I've got a video to edit. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. I'll see you at the end of the week. Good morning. I am once again exhausted. I really slept quite awfully last night and then got nicely woken up by my mum hoovering. Yay. Yeah, I'm just exhausted. My knee is so painful, so I go, as I've mentioned in previous vlogs, I go to a chiropractor, and I wasn't able to go last week because all my hours at work had changed, so I had to reschedule my appointment. I'm really noticing that difference. This is the first time that I would have been at the 4-week mark, but I've had to push it back to 5 weeks, and I'm just so tired and in so much pain. It is actually unreal. But my appointment is on Thursday. That's the closest I could get, so I'm just gonna have to rip my teeth until then. But it was also putting me in quite a bad mood because I'm so tired and I'm in so much pain, and I've got my sister and that coming over, but I know that the best thing for me to do is just to stay up here and relax, because I'm just too tired to interact with people. I don't know if anybody else ever gets that, but it's not the day for it today. But the purpose of this video, or this update, was to wrap up the vlog, and I can say that I have finished Turn of the Screw by Henry James. I started and finished this in the time that I last updated, and I can say this is a really rather unusual one. You have the most unreliable narrator ever, because we're seeing it all from the governess's perspective. So she's come to this house to look after these 2 children, and the sole purpose that she has been given is do not disturb the master of the house with problems. He doesn't live in the house, but he just doesn't want to know about it. He just wants her to look after them, and he doesn't want to deal with them. And I'm like, alright, fair enough. They're not his kids. He's just taking them on. I think they were like family relations, and so he's doing the right thing, but he also has no interest in children at all, so he's just kind of left them in his country house. Now, as the governess gets there, she starts seeing some really unusual things, and you're left really confused by this book. Is it actual ghosts? Is it that she's actually descending into some sort of madness? Like, you really can't tell. It's so ambiguous, the writing. No one else can see these ghosts apart from her, and these ghosts are manifestations of the 2 previous people that were here. We have a governess and her lover that shouldn't have been, and from the way they are talked about, you can get the idea that they were so inappropriate with the children, to the point where it could even be construed as children being molested. That's how dark it gets. Again, nothing's explicit, it's all just implied. And so you get from that the children, although they look angelic and things like that, they're not 100% what the governess would see as angelic. That, you know, they are slightly disturbed, which, to be fair, if they've had to deal with all of that, you would be. So, you know, I kind of get that. But then there are parts where the governess and Miles, one of the children, is talking, and it just seems so wrong. Like, the way that those sentences can be implied, everything about this book felt unnatural and creepy, and you don't know what to believe. And I finished it still not knowing what to believe. And Henry James does leave it in this really ambiguous way, so you kind of have to make up your own mind. Is it madness? Is it these ghosts and evil spirits? What's happened to these children? Because nothing is ever actually explicitly said. It's all in what's inferred. And I liked that, but I can also finish the book going, wait, what? And so when I originally put this record pile, it's 3 stars, but I do think that the cleverness of it can equal it to be 4 stars, because as I'm talking it over now, because I finished it last night and put it through record pile last night, but as I'm talking about it now, I'm still like, this was such a clever book. Like, it was so gripping, and I'm still not sure of what happened, and just the atmosphere that was built in this book and the creepy, uneasy feelings it gave me was just so well done. So I do think I'm going to re-look at my ratings for Corpal and just see if that changes it. If it does, I will put it up here as per usual. But yeah, I do think this was really well done, and I can definitely see why it's been adapted so many times in films, because it does just leave you with this element of not knowing what the hell's going on, and you can interpret it in so many ways. And I can see myself reading this book later on and maybe picking up something different, or maybe thinking about it in a different light. It's just so interesting. It was a very short book. I didn't realise, I thought this was the whole thing, but actually this edition has 2 other short stories in it. So Turn of the Screw is only like 130 pages in this edition. So that was really good. I haven't read the other 2 short stories because, to be quite honest, I was too tired. But it does make me intrigued to see more of his writing and see if all his works has this unusual element, or whether it was just Turn of the Screw. So yeah, this was surprisingly good. I actually really did enjoy this, and the more I think about it, the better I think it is. So definitely need to revisit that star rating. I've been finding that's happening a lot lately, that if I do my star ratings straight away, they tend to get higher or lower. Whereas if I give myself a couple days to actually think about that rating and think about that book, sometimes that star rating is changing. So I think instead of putting it through Corpal straight away, I need to give myself a couple days to actually think about it. And although that does mean in these weekly vlogs you might not always get it, I can always edit in what the star rating actually turns out to be, and you can get my initial thoughts. But it was just, this was a creepy one, but done really, really well. Anyway, I am going to wrap up the vlog here. I hope you've all had a lovely week. Do let me know if you've read any of these books. I know this week was a very slow reading week for me, but I have to admit, I've needed it. I am so worn out, it's unreal. So we're going to keep going on. Oh, next week I have an extra day off. I'm so excited for this. That's going to be great. So we'll see what happens next week. But today we are just going to be relaxing, starting one of my August books, which no idea which one yet, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, oh, don't forget, this is going to be the last time that you can vote for which book I read in August. I have on my August TBR game, which is live, books for you to choose. So one of the prompts I've allowed you guys to choose, so if you haven't watched that and want to have a say, this is going to be the last chance for you to do that. So once this video goes live, I'm going to leave it until the following Sunday, and then that poll will close and we'll see what book gets picked. Have fun with that if you want to, and I'm going to stop the ramble now, which is something that always happens. So hope, as I said, hope you've had a absolutely lovely week. Let me know what was your favourite book that you've read, what have you been up to, all the usual things. But for now, I'm gonna go. So if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it that thumbs up and subscribe. My social media links will be linked below, and I will of course catch you in the next one.